Hey there, welcome to the installation video for the wand portion of the GPStar Supreme kit. We made several changes since the last installation video, so we figured it's time to do an update. If there's only some specific mods that you purchased for this wand, then you can go ahead and skip the parts that don't pertain to you. If anything in this video becomes outdated by the time you watch it, I'll be sure to include the updates in the description, so you can go there and check that out before you start. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is open this up. In order to do that, we need to access the screws that are inside and hidden by 4 pegs here on the bottom of the gun track. The method I like to do is to just dig a hole in the middle. You can use some snippers like I am. Just enough to get a little bit exposed. Grab a small self-tapping screw. Screw it in. Take some pliers and wiggle back and forth and yank it out. Now, depending what wand you have, some of them are glued in quite a bit, so they might not come out as cleanly. So I'm gonna try that again. And then the rest come out pretty easily. I believe some of the newer version wands at the time of making this video have much stronger glue inside. Some of the older versions aren't glued in as much. And yes, you can take a drill to drill a hole instead, but make sure you don't go too deep. You don't want to strip the screw that's underneath. This one came out nice and clean. You just need to wiggle it back and forth as you're pulling up a little bit. There you go, all done. You'll probably have some debris or glue still stuck in the edges in the holes. So you're just gonna take a tool of some sort and just clean it out a little bit. Then take your screwdriver and go ahead and unscrew them out. If you end up having the screws not be able to pop out because of some of the debris that's still on the edges keeping it in, that's okay. You can leave them in there. It's not a big deal. So for me, I only got 2 of these out. I'm gonna put them in here. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave those 2 in there. It's okay. Let's put this aside. Now back to the wand. There's another 4 screws you're gonna need to remove. For 3 of these, you'll probably need a longer screwdriver. This screw here is longer than the other ones, so it's gonna take longer to remove. So open this up and flip it over. Okay, now that we have access inside, make sure your wand is extended. Now go ahead and grab some masking tape or whatever tape. You're gonna wanna rip off a piece and tape down your speakers because it will fall off. Turn our attention to the back of the handle. Unscrew the screw here. Remove the cap. Make sure that your battery tray is out and tossed aside. Now that we're inside, take a screwdriver and go ahead and remove this part right here. And lift up the spring. That will give you access to the screw here. Take that off as well. And then you can just take this off and put it aside. Okay, next we're gonna work on the main board here. First, let's just break off this peg here. You don't need these. And then remove the 4 screws holding down this main board. And now we're going to carefully remove these connectors. You'll find simply pulling them out it's quite difficult, and you definitely don't want to just yank on these wires because you don't want to break these off and go crying afterward. So what I suggest you do is take some fine tweezers and you want to wedge it in where the connecting tabs are, like that. And you center it, and then see if you can gently pull it out then. So that it's a little difficult, but as you see, take a look. I was able to remove it partially, so I think I should be able to just pull it out now without the tweezers. So you want to try to always pull from the housing, not the wires. There you go. You want to just snip this cable tie here. So for this one, same thing. I'm just gonna put some pliers in, pry it up. And just wiggle it out. Oh man, that one was tough. That one was tough. Flipping it over. Okay, there you go. Anything else? Oh, that's it, just those three. Now to remove the rest of these wires, while this kit doesn't have any soldering involved, we do highly recommend you use a soldering iron to desolder these. Much easier, much cleaner. And I'll demonstrate that soon, but if you really insist on not doing that method, then you can take some scissors. I already did that one. You just need to go in there and snip them off at the ends. And then if you do have, wire stripper, this is 26 gauge, you can go in there and strip it. Or if you don't, and you really do insist on doing this method, just take your scissors and lightly apply a bit of pressure and turn around until you snip off the covers a little bit, and then just pull up. There you go. Give it a little twist with the exposed wire, and that's it. But like I said, using a soldering iron, much easier. Any cheap soldering iron will do. Just need to heat it up and touch the back of one of the wires, and as you see it melt, you just pull on with your other hand. There you go. Yeah, much easier, much cleaner. And then you're just gonna do it for all of them. It would be easier if you can get the helping hands of a human being to hold this for you. But if you don't have anyone, then you can get the helping hands of these helping hands. And please go slow and don't burn yourself. And there you go, all done. Now bid farewell to your old Hasbro board and say hello to the new shiny GPStar board. Oh wait, not yet. We still have a lot more prepping to do. All right, now that you finished desoldering and feel like an electronics expert, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next manly thing and take a screwdriver to do some drilling. What we need to do is access this area back here. And in order to do that first, we need to move this cable out of the way. And you're gonna do that by taking some tweezers. And what we're gonna do is slide it out in between this little tiny area right here. So take your wire and you're gonna try to flatten it out as possible to make it fit. So you're gonna push down, and I'm flattening out against the wall, and you're just gonna slowly shimmy it through. What I find helps is to give it more slack by pushing this down as much as you can, and then shimmying it through. Okay, yep, and almost got it. Okay, there we go. Nothing fancy about it. It just took some persistence, and it helps to have various thin types of tools. If you make a mistake, you can try to pull it back and go do it again. Like I said, when I had to push down and give it a lot of slack, that definitely did help. Okay, so when you take your drill, and you're gonna want to take a small drill bit first. We're gonna drill a pilot hole here. See if I can move in with some better light. As you can see here, this little section right here, this is actually part of the handle right there. So we need to access that. So the two things you need to worry about mostly when you're drilling here is that you want to get as close to the right side as possible. You don't want to go over here to the left. And you want to make sure you're going in at a 45-degree angle, not straight down. It has to be 45. And then move up to a bigger drill bit. And then take your wires here and just do a test to make sure it goes through. And if it does feed through, you can just go ahead and put these in one at a time. Okay, so it comes out the other end, so we're good to go. And you know what, while we're back here, we might as well finish this end and get this closed up. So go ahead and take this Neutrona connector here, the screw that comes with it. And you're gonna be using one of these three connectors here. When these wands were produced, there were different starting points for these threads that you see here. So we made 3 of these that should correspond to each version of the wand. So just try each of them out until you get one where the hole is lined up along the bottom. Then grab your Neutrona connector, and starting with 1 positive, we're gonna stick in the red wire and screw it in tight. Give it a tug. Double check that is actually clamped down on the exposed part and not the cable cover. Next, 1 negative, that will be the black wire. And then 2 positive, and that will be the yellow wire. And last, the 2 negative, and that will be the blue wire. And then put it in with the hole lined up with the bottom. Stick in your connector, and then what you can do is, as you're threading this, you can just hold the middle part still with some pliers. And once you have that lined up, you can take your screw with an Allen key and just screw that in. All done. And one last thing to prep, there are 3 sets of black and red wires, 3 pairs. One of these pairs are not necessary. So how we find out which one is you take one of them, like so this one here. These 2 are attached. Give it a bit of a tug and see where it leads. So this one, if you look in to the back here, you see it moving. That is the rumble motor. So we do need this one. So we'll put that one aside. And the next one is over here. Also, these 2 are also attached to each other. And giving it a tug, you'll see down here that this one moves. This is the slow glow LED, so we do need that one. And then so the last one are these 2 over here that are not attached. These are connected to the battery tray in the rear handle here. So this one, we don't need it. You can actually just cut these off. You'll never touch them again. But if you're uncomfortable with that, just at least tape them up. And then just shove them deep into the recesses of your wand and never touch them again. Okay, so we have so far prepared everything ready for an install if we were just doing the essential stuff. the essential kit of the GPStar one, but you're not here for that. You're here for the more advanced mods. So the first thing we're going to need to do for that is take off the speaker here, put this aside, and we're going to make a bit more room. This is in the way, so let's go ahead and pop the spring up and then remove the screw that's underneath, and then just lift this off the barrel, up and over. Oh, whoops, sorry. Yeah, take this off. Looks like this is glued down, the Hatlight wire, so it's glued down right in here. So just take some tweezers and break off the glue that's holding it down. Okay. And then now you can lift this off. Okay, now just to give us a bit more room, if you're installing the Hatlight kit, you're eventually going to need to cut this off. So why don't we just go ahead and do that now. If you're not installing the Hatlight kit, do not cut off this fake wire thing here. Just skip this step. But I'm going to make my life easier, and I'm going to snip it off right now. So right here, it's just goes through the hole. It's just this rubber plug thing that's attached. So you got to snip that off. Careful not to break these two posts. These are essential posts. We need those. And that just pops right off. So you can just put this aside for later. We'll be right back to it. I know we're installing the Hatlights here and the button, but I prefer to focus on the body first, and then we'll get to this later on. Next, we will need to remove this cover. Same thing as we did when we open up the wand. Got to drill into these two holes and use a screw to pry it open. Oh boy, that took me, I think, a full minute or more. That one was glued in really, really strong. I hope you guys have better luck than I did. Oh, thank God. This one was like a billion times easier. Word of warning, I did not follow my advice. I screwed in the screw a little too deep. I think I did strip the screws head a little bit. Luckily, it looks like I'm still able to remove it. So please keep an eye out for that. And I do have some extra screws, so I'll just replace these ones. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. It is a little stripped. My bad. Okay, for the next step, grab this long barrel cover, that's called. We're gonna need to do some snipping. And where you're gonna snip is, if you place this around here, where the 2 feet go into the screw pegs, you're gonna see we're gonna have to cut off everything underneath. So you're gonna have to cut off all this plastic that's under here. Oh, be sure to push the wires aside. Don't accidentally snip those off. Okay, so that is what it looks like when you cut everything off. And this will later sit in here like so as a replacement. All right, so continue on. I'm going to be doing the vent, Hatlight, and Bargraph mod all at the same time, just because they all kind of work together and the things I need to do kind of cross over each other. So if you only have some of those mods and not all three, just do your best to follow along and skip the parts that don't pertain. And I'll try to inform you along the way which one pertains to what. Let's go ahead and remove the vent light here. That just comes off really easily. Next, let's remove the Bargraph cover. Just 2 screws. And that just comes right off. And then the Bargraph should just pop off as well. The Bargraph LED. Yep, so that just comes right off. What's next? Oh, okay, so let's take off the screw right here that's holding down the retraction switch. Next, with that off, you can pull out this retraction switch and put this aside. We'll be needing it again later. Be careful about the slow glow LED. These wires are very fragile. Okay, so now we're going to take off this clear piece here. This is all one connected piece. This vent light cover and the Bargraph cover is all one big piece. Start off with this screw here. Make a note of it that this screw here is a shorter one than the other ones. Then this one over here. Make a note of this one, also short. Third one is back here. Short. And then the last one is all the way back in there. And this one's gonna be a little tricky to reach because you're gonna have to unscrew this at an angle. So you're gonna need a longer screwdriver. Nope, that's not working. I'm gonna try this one. Okay, yeah, this one is working. It's a little tricky, but eventually it will come out. Short. Oh, I almost forgot. This piece is annoyingly glued down to the side there, so you're gonna have to just try to break off this glue. Otherwise, it won't come out. Yeah, there you go. It doesn't take much. It's not glued down too much. Actually, I don't know if this one's glued down. It might just been away, but I know I had some wands that they were for sure glued down to that spot there. So it doesn't hurt to just break that off a little bit. Now take this off. Again, be careful with this LED. There you go. And then you're gonna need these 3 pieces. That's clear clip light and a red clip light that's not shown because I don't have one right now at the time of recording. So first thing you do, take these pieces here. Because the way these 3D printed parts are printed, I do something called a sacrificial layer, and sometimes you might see some filament where the holes are, and you just need to stick your screwdriver in just to clear it if it's not. If you see the instructions, these ones are already pre-cleared. All right, moving on, we're going to install the Hatlight. For this, you're going to need to do some drilling with a 2464 drill bit. This is the perfect size for the Hatlights that we provide. Luckily for us, there's already a hole there that can serve as a guide for our drill, so we don't need to drill a pilot hole. So yeah, let's go ahead and get drilling. As you can see, that just drills the top part out. And yeah, there you go, nice and clean, very easy to do. All right, so next, let's grab our Hatlight kit. And we're just gonna deal with the top body one right now. So the Hatlight that I have for this body here is the Afterlife / Superhero version. So we're gonna need that one, the spacer, and the yellow LED wire. So for the Superhero Afterlife, make sure it's this tall Hatlight that we're using, not the other orange one that goes to the barrel wing. The other options that we sell is the Stan's Venkman Hatlight. It's the same thing, but white. And then the Spangler one, which is a white one that goes on top. And I'm sorry, I don't have one here to show you, but there's also a connector piece that goes in underneath that connects to this one as it sits on top of the body. For that connector piece, it's installed the same way as these Hatlights. So I'm just gonna go ahead and demonstrate with this one here. So you're wondering why there's a space there. It's because in case you're only getting the Hatlight and not like a Bargraph mod or the vent light or whatever, imagine that this vent piece was still completely on. That would make this area a little bit thicker. And then so this Hatlight would just go straight on if you had the full cover still on. But because we took this off, we didn't make up for that extra thickness by putting on the spacer so that it doesn't stick out too far. Okay, so because I know for sure that I'm not using a vent cover and these two pieces are basically gonna need to be one piece, I'm gonna add a very tiny dab of super glue and permanently glue these together. Okay, now that that's glued together, actually I was planning to go ahead and install the Hatlight right away, but change of plans. I think I'm gonna go ahead and install these other pieces first. I'll explain why in a little bit. So first one, grab this piece. Grab your clear clip light, and that snaps into this hole here. And then this just drops into the hole here. Flip over, double check. Take the short screw. Next, let's install this piece here. Short screw. And this piece drops in over here. Short screw. Okay, and then flip it over and stick in the red clip light. This one just pops in and snaps right into the body. Okay, and then now let's go ahead and hot glue the LED in. Okay, and once it's dry, let's drop the Hatlight in. Make sure that it's flush. I'm gonna set this on top of the other side of the body so that it's not pushing against the table. This wire can move it and pull it out of its flushness, so make sure it's in a position where the LED wire isn't going to be bothering it. Okay, when that's done, do your best to aim and drop a little hot glue on it to secure it to the wand. Yeah, I'm actually going to drop a little bit more on the left side. And while I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm gonna let you know, honestly, it's easier to just super glue the Hatlight into the wand body than using hot glue. All right, now that you're done with the Hatlight, that's actually probably the least fun part of the body. So we got that out of the way. The rest is pretty easy peasy. Next, let's replace this clipper light here. And then just pop that up. Grab your replacement, drop that in. You need to push this one in. It is a bit of a tight fit. Double check on this side to see if it's okay. And then you go ahead and screw it back on. And screw the LED back on. All right, shifting gears a bit. We're gonna move on to something easier now. It didn't used to be easier. It used to be difficult to install, and that is the Bargraph. Reason being is that the previous version was it was a little difficult to install with the old design. I know a lot of people had a lot of difficulties, but I have redesigned that piece, and now we have a new 3-piece Bargraph. And this basically fixes all the problems of the old one. It's much more secure, less prone to breaking, and is a lot stronger. So to install the Bargraph, it doesn't really matter the orientation technically, because you can always change the direction in the settings. But by default, the firmware is set to have it being installed this way with the cables pointing downwards. All right, so grab your main Bargraph mount, and it's gonna pop in like this. And then on the bottom side, there's a little groove here. So you're gonna slide that in first, and that's gonna sit there. Next, grab one of the screws, and we're gonna install the top piece first. So that slots in there. And grab a second screw, and we're gonna do the same to the bottom here, and that slots into that peg over there. Okay, and when all is said and done, it should look something like this. Flip it over, take a look, see how it is. Yep, it's sitting flush with the body. You push down to test. It has a little bit of give, but it holds it very well. All right, now let's reinstall some of the components. So grab your extended barrel switch. This slides in here. Grab your Kung Lao hat looking screw. The ever so delicate slow glow LED. That slots in there around that post like that. That's how Hasbro did it. Okay. And then you got this piece. Reinstall that here. Hat. Reattach the spring. Hat. And then put the rear instrument box back on. I think that's what it's called. Screw, screw. Oh, I almost forgot about the vent light. So this is the RGB GPStar vent light. With the terminal block and vent light, they come pre-closed already, these little doors. And they're already closed, so we need to open them. So take a flathead screwdriver and open them up. Unscrewing to the left. And you just need to do 3 of these. You don't really need to do this last one here. That's labeled D out. We're just gonna use the first 3. All right, so let's start with the first one, which is your green wire. That should go under D12 on the right here. Give it a gentle tug, double check to make sure it's clamped down properly. Next, the black wire goes to ground. And finally, the red wire goes to VL positive. Okay, grab another screw. This one's gonna be a little bit more difficult to install as there's no point where it just kind of snaps in. There's a little peg right here, a little rectangular peg right there. And then that's gonna slot in between here. So once you have that lined up, there's a hole that screws into the peg. Tighten a bit, I'm just gonna hold it down, center it a bit. And yeah, there you go. That is nice and secure. You can angle a bit if you want to make sure it's in the middle. That's gonna be plenty bright. Watch your eyes. Okay, that's it for reels with the wand body for now. Okay, which one should we do first? Okay, I think we're gonna install the Neutrona Barrel first. That one is easier. So put this one aside, and just focus on this. Okay, so you grab this barrel, and if you look closely, I hope I can capture this on camera. On the top and bottom side, you should see a very faint little dot. It's white. I know this whole thing's white. It sounds crazy, but can you guys see that right there? See that little dot? I'm just gonna flip this over, show you the other side as well. You see right there. Maybe it's not well on camera, but you should be able to see it in person. We're gonna need to access that hole. So what you do is just take, I don't know, something sharp. This little mini screwdriver works very well for me. I'm just gonna dig in. And make the hole just large enough. And you don't need to make it too big, but you want to make it big enough so that the little screw that's inside, can you see that? The silver, there's a little pin in here. We need to pop that out. Yeah, I think that should be good enough. Let's flip it over and do the other side. Before I pop it out, I'm just gonna clean off the edges a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna pop this out. So with the spring here facing this way, you're gonna push it down and in. And you wanna push it from this end instead of the other because this end has a narrow end to it. And so pushing the other way will be a lot more difficult for the pin to slide through. So just go ahead and pull that out. And with that off, you can slide this off and then take off the clear diffusing part and then the foam. And now we gotta take off the old LED. So this is just glued in. So just up and over. And just gonna break that glue and try to remove as much glue as possible because we're gonna need to reuse the space. So you want that nice and clean. Mr. Heat Gun should make this a little easier. Don't go too long, just a little bit. Don't melt this piece. Oh yeah, much easier now. There you go, nice and clean. Okay, now grab your Neutrona Barrel and grab the wires here and go ahead and plug that in. And before we install this, just a warning, you see these capacitors in the back, do be careful of these. They can snap off easily. And then make note of the hole, we will be putting a screw through there. So grab your Neutrona Barrel mount and you're just gonna slot in like this from the front and up at an angle. And then just seat it, making sure that those capacitors aren't pushing up against anything. And if it's sitting flush, then you're good to go. And then take the tiny little M2.5 button head screw and then just start getting the threading going. It might be a little bit difficult at the beginning. After that, you'll need a small Allen key. And then while I'm applying a little bit of pressure on this side, holding it in, I'm just gonna go ahead and screw this in. Don't worry if it doesn't feel secure, even if it wobbles a bit. The most important thing is it doesn't pop off upwards. So with it lined up, just give it a little bit of an upward tug. And if they don't separate, that's all you need. Once we combine everything together, it will hold everything in place. So again, don't worry about it being a little wobbly or whatever. Okay, next, you're gonna grab this piece here and this second connector piece. And then that just snaps in place like that. Then take this connector piece and these snap together like so. Then you're just gonna run the wires through. Okay, and then when you get to this part here, the red wire is on the bottom, so I'm gonna start with that. You're just gonna circle around it to the outside. So come in through here and snap into the little groove here. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the second one and it's gonna go around the other side. And finally take the third one and you can pick whichever side you want. That will go around the same way. And when you're done, it should look something like this. Okay, so now when we get around to this part here, we can reuse these little snaps. We'll start with the red one. Okay, so these only fit about two, so the third one's just gonna sit on top. So for the end here, you can snap the top one to the very last one there. All right, now you're gonna need to grab your handy hot glue gun And we're just gonna drop some glue along those pegs there. And you just want to drop a very tiny amount. You don't need too much. You don't want this, you really want this to be gliding smooth later, so you don't want it to bulk up and might interfere with the gliding process. So next, grab your handy hot glue gun. Just gonna drop a tiny dab of glue along these pegs here. And you do want just a tiny bit. You don't want too much. We want to make sure this glides in and out smoothly, and the hot glue can interfere with that. So let's go start it just a little bit. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to drop a bit at the very end there. Okay, so obviously let it dry along the way. Clean it up a bit where you think it needs some cleaning. And then just grab this inner barrel and do a bit of a test to see how well it glides. Okay, that feels good to me, so I'm gonna leave that as it is. Next, you're gonna grab your foam piece and you're gonna line it up with just the barrel part where it meets the mount. And then you're just gonna cut off the excess. So you can go like snip, like that. And then you can just insert this piece over top. Then grab the diffuser and insert that. And lastly, grab your final two piece and look for the little notch on the back. And that will line up with the notch right here. And before we completely close up, I'm just gonna switch to the front and double check that this hole here is clear. Make sure the wire is not in the way. And that should just snap in. Okay, and then grab the little pin. And then with the non-neural side going in first, just stick that in. And then I'm just gonna poke it in a little bit more to make sure that it's flush and not sticking out at all. Do one last test. Okay, and that's it. So let's put this aside for now. We'll get back to it later on. And let's move on to the Hatlight. All right, to install the Hatlight and push button on the barrel wing here, we're actually gonna go through in 3 installation methods. Unfortunately, there isn't one sure, easy, fully clean method to go by. So I'm gonna show you 3 and then you can decide on which one you prefer. So the first method, this is the method that I demonstrated in the first video. This is the method that I prefer. We're basically gonna cut all of the bottom part of this out. Reason being is because if you're going for screen accurate, you're gonna cover this up with heat shrink tubing afterwards anyway, so it doesn't really matter how it looks back here. So I'm drawing out the rough area where we're gonna cut. You want to try to keep as much of this right side here as possible. So let's just stop right here for now and see if that's enough to go with. But first, we're gonna need to take out this peg here, and by now, you already know the drill. And then if you have a Dremel, you can Dremel it. That would be the easiest way to cut this off. But just in case you don't, I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm just going to drill a couple of holes here. Actually 3 holes. And then I'm just gonna snip in between them. Actually, I'm just keep drilling holes along this path. Looks like a war zone. Yeah, I know this is not pretty. If you got Dremel, much easier. Just do that. If you don't, it doesn't matter, honestly, though, if it's pretty or not, because like I said, we're covering this up anyways. All right, so now that we're in, you can easily access the parts that we no longer need. So here's the switch. Just go ahead and cut the wires and then pull it from the other side. And then the hat light should just fall out. And then we're just gonna clean this up a bit now. All right, so it looks like I do need to snip off a little bit more. Try to maintain on this side here as much as you can, but as you see, we do need to go straight down into that hole for the push button. So we're gonna have to snip off just a tiny bit more. All right, let's see if we can work with this. You're gonna need your 1/4-inch drill bit again. And luckily there is already a hole there that we can use as a pilot hole. So you line that up and drill all the way straight through. There you go. Pops off. And then we can snip off the fake nut on the front here. Okay, I followed that. You can follow it down as well. Try to get it as flush as you can. And then grab your push button, take off the nut and that little spacer. If you find that the push button isn't quite fitting, just run your 1/4-inch drill bit again and just kind of push along the edges as you're drilling. That should widen it just enough for it to, yep, squeeze on through. Then last thing you need to do is just throw on the nut. And while you're holding it in place from the back end, just twist it with some pliers. And now for the hat light, you're gonna take this insert here, and it's just gonna drop right in from the back. Perfect fit for the existing hole. No need to do any modifications. You can put a tiny bit of glue. Glue that on. Squeezing them in to make sure they're sandwiched together. Next, grab the LED, drop it in, and once again, we're gonna drop a bit of hot glue in there. Okay, now once that's dry, don't put your drill away just yet. You're gonna need to drill a hole through the handle, well, right there. Oh, the drill bit I use is 5/16. That should be big enough. Okay, so we've got a nice hole there to feed the wires through. All right, so go ahead and you can take your wires and feed them through. The last one's gonna be the trickiest. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we got all 4 wires neatly tucked in. And then now we need to get it out of this end. We're just gonna pull on it and snip it off. Gonna push the rubber piece that's remaining in. Shake it about. All right, so now it's a bit tricky, but we need to get these wires out through this hole. The easiest method that I find is to get a piece of small thin string. I'm just going to use the wire from the old push button. put it through there. Grab it out from the other end and tie it to one of the ends of the wire. And then you just try to finesse it through. And then just repeat the process for each of the wires. Okay, and that's that. The installation of these wires through the handle here, this is also applies to method number 2. Okay, to install the heat shrink tubing, unfortunately, because we can't just simply slide it in due to the handle being molded to the wing barrel tip here, we're gonna have to cut off just a little bit. So some scissors and something like this should be fine. You don't need to go too high up. Let's see if that fits over. Oh, more than enough. I can probably trim this down. So yes, looks like that will fully encompass the barrel wing. So cut off a little bit more here because I have excess amount. Yeah, okay. I think that I'm happy with that. All right, so heat shrink tubing. Well, obviously they shrink. Once fully heated, this will shrink to about 1/3 of the size that you see here. And the one problem we have is because we cut these ends here are gonna peel inwards away like this. And whatever holes we cut are also gonna peel away. So you wanna keep that in mind when you're installing this. So next step is, while you have this on, let's mark where the button and hat light is, and then we're just going to snip the holes. Probably wasn't ideal to use a silver Sharpie, whoopsies. Give that a test. Okay, that looks okay. Okay, so some very important tips. When using the heat gun, like we mentioned earlier, you want to keep this moving. If you heat it up in one spot too long, you could warp the plastic. This hat light, it may not look like it's warping, but it can become brittle. It's made of resin and they can crack. And the most important one is this push button. You do not want to deform this button here. Otherwise, you get a situation like this, where it no longer pops back out on its own. So you know this looks okay. It is deformed just enough that it's not operating as is intended. So there are some ways around that. You just grab like some paper or like a cardboard, and you're gonna cover it as you're doing your heating. What I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna avoid this area as much as possible. I'm probably just gonna mostly heat up everything around it, and I'm probably not gonna really touch this area. Okay, so let's get started with the back side. There's a very important tip for this one too. Okay, as soon as you start seeing this curl and it feels quite soft, you're going to want to grab it and hold it down so that it is covering that spot. You don't want that to get away from you. After a bit, I'm going to heat up a little bit to make sure that that glue melts and sticks on. Yeah, I don't want to heat up too much, but yeah, I feel like I can feel the glue soften. Okay, next, let's just do this outer edge. I'm trying to avoid the hat light as much as possible. So this part's being a little stubborn. Just as a precaution, I'm going to cover the hat light. At any point you're worried that you're heating it up too much, you can just wait until it cools and back off and give it a bit of a break, and then you can get back to it again afterwards. Okay, that back side got away from me, so I'm stretching it back on. Okay, I think I'm just gonna need to do this bottom piece here, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't wanna go at it too much. The button still works, thankfully. Let's keep it that way. What do you say? Okay, I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm a little afraid to go into the middle here. I've done it before, but I don't want to mess with it too much. Most important thing is this button keeps working. Okay, and now for method number 2, you're gonna have to take out the screw, wedge this open, and pull out the switchboard inside. Snip it off, and then pull out the rest of the wire from the back here. And the hat light's not gonna come out as easily, so we're gonna have to just snip at it while it's loose inside, and then just pull out the pieces from the top here. Snip off the fake push button. And then with your 1/4 inch drill bit, we're gonna center it and drill all the way through. Then you can snip off the excess of the fake nut here. And then you take your 2564 drill bit, and we're gonna widen the backside even more. So I've already done it. I accidentally did this off camera, but this part gets a little tricky, at least it did for me. When I drilled in, the way it kind of grabbed onto the plastic, it wanted to keep going forward. And whenever I backed out like this, it wasn't a perfect circle like you see here. And then I tried to keep it in place while I drilled, but I lost control and it just went whoosh all the way forward and out the other end. And that poses an issue because when you put your push button in, it goes all the way to the other side. There's nothing holding it down. Big boo-boo. Oh my goodness. So if you're doing this method, try to go gentle and very slow with the back end. Don't do what I did and accidentally go all the way through. However, I do think this is salvageable. The little spacer that comes with the push button, it is slightly wider than the hole. So I'm going to try to drop that in there and see if it's enough to hold the push button in. I'm going to drop this spacer into that area. I'm just going to line it up with the hole, and I'm just going to drop it in push button and see if it goes through. Okay. Yeah, and it looks like that is working. So we're just gonna go ahead and put the nut on this side of things. Okay, and there we go. We were able to salvage it. Might be in a bit of an angle, but I'm happy that we're able to salvage a potential disaster. Let's put the screw back in. And then for the Hatlight 2564 drill bit, we're just gonna go straight through. I'm just gonna go real slow this time. Okay, this time I did a much better job of holding it in place. I really gripped both of them in place as I drilled, and I should have did that with the push button instead of messing it up like I did. And then let's pry this open again. And drop in the insert piece for the Hatlight. And while holding it in on the back side with a tool, you can drop a bit of glue on here and pop in the Hatlight. After that, we repeat the same steps as method 1. You're gonna drop in the LED, put some hot glue in, drill a hole through the handle, and feed the wires through and out this hole, just like we did in the first method. You can rewind the video to check how to do that again. Okay, method number 3. We are gonna be splitting the barrel in half. So just pretend that these holes don't exist, pretend it's a brand new one. What we need to do is, in addition to this peg with the screw removed, we need to do it to this one here, and this one here as well. Okay, and then let's unscrew them. So next we need to remove this top ring here and this bottom ring here. They're glued on pretty well, but what you can do is take a heat gun and just go at it, not long at all, like just a few seconds here and there, and it should just pop right off like this. So I already did that to mine. It was really tight. I didn't put the heat gun on very long at all, and they came out so easily. And I'm gonna give a shout to Steve W in our Facebook community group. He's the one who suggested this method to me. Okay, and with that done, you can go ahead and just rip this barrel in half. The obvious benefits to this method is that you don't have to drill any holes in the bottom here. The only hole you need to drill is through the push button here, and that's it. You can maintain the bottom look. You can keep it looking like it's stock. The only issue is that this push button extends outwards beyond the wing barrel tip, but that's easy fix. All you need to do is just bend these legs outwards. Like so, and then that should fit inside. And then just follow the same method as method number 1 and 2. You just gotta pop on this Hatlight, put a bit of super glue, pop it on. I'm not gonna do that here. And grab your LED, drop some hot glue in there, and then these wires can just be run down along the inside body here. It of course helps to use a bit of tape. And then the rest will run up into the slot here where the hole is supposed to be. Snap the cover back in place. Make sure that the wires here are coming through the hole and not getting caught. And then that's it. Just need to pop the rings back on. Put the screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just gonna pretend this is back on. And then you should have a nice clean looking barrel wingtip No need for a heat shrink if you don't want to. Pretending these holes aren't here. The back one looks clean outside of the screw hole. So that is the one big benefit. Nice and easy, minimal drilling, but the obvious downside to it is that you're going to be left with these 4 screw holes here. The ones in the grip bother me the most personally, but one solution around this is you go online and you can find a 3D file of the replacement peg, and you get that 3D printed and you just pop those in there, and hopefully that will look like it looked like it did before. So that's method number 3. Okay guys, guess what? There's actually a 4th bonus method here that I came across after I finished filming. Big shout out to Mario R in our community group for reminding me of this technique, and big shout out to Mike R for the one who originally posted this technique. And what you need for this technique is just an X-Acto knife and a lighter or blowtorch if you have one. And from what I understand, it's a slow process but a very clean and easy one. So you just need to heat up the blade, and you're just gonna make a clean incision along the seams here. Oh yeah, look at that. That first incision, it just sunk right in, and like as if you're cutting butter. But after that, it cooled down already. And so while this method looks like it would be the cleanest, you do have to have patience of constantly reheating your blade several times. As you can see in these reference photos posted by Mike R, you can just cut along the edges and it's a nice clean piece that you can break off and you can reapply it afterwards. So whichever method you choose, I'd be very curious to know what your thoughts are on these. So go ahead and post your thoughts in the comments after you finish the installation and let me know what you think. Okay, now that we're done with barrel, and congratulations by the way, I would say this is one of the harder mods to do, especially if you're doing the heat shrink method. So moving on, we're going to grab our wand body back and take these 4 wires, line them up, and you're going to feed them through this hole. And now from your Hatlight kit, you can grab these 2 wire housings, starting with the 2 blue wires. Order doesn't matter. With the little tab facing up, that's gonna go insert to the back of the housing. Give it a bit of tug to make sure you insert it correctly. Okay, now let's do the same with this one. Tiny tab facing up. And that is nicely secure. Moving on to the LED, starting with the red one. The order matters for this. So this one is gonna, with the backside facing up this way, gonna insert into the right side of the back. If you're having a bit of trouble connecting it like me, just lift up this tiny tab just a little bit. And then maybe push down on the housing. There we go, that is fine. And then the black one goes on the other side. Don't mix these 2 up, make sure you get them correct. And these wires are gonna run in between here, under the barrel. So leave that there for now. Now grab the rest of your barrel kit. So remember this guy here, you slide that in there. The wire is gonna be coming out from this little slot. So facing upwards, you're gonna slide this in this way, like that. Whoops, let's go this way. Facing this way like that. And then just slide it into the pole. There's plenty of wires for the Hatlight kit here, so you can give it as much slack as you want underneath. Just make sure that this sits on properly. And make sure the ring is also on. There you go. Grab the hat screw and re-secure this. And then you can leave the spring off for now. We'll get back to that later. And if the Hatlight wire is a little too long, you can just wrap it up in a bit of a knot. And now finally it's time to install the GPStar board. They're finally here. So the board comes with all these terminal doors pre-closed. So we're gonna need to open them all. So you're gonna need to unscrew take your small flathead screwdriver and you're gonna have to unscrew them all by twisting to the left. And when you're inserting these wires, make sure you're clamping down on just the exposed part, not the sleeve here. Otherwise the connection won't be made and you're gonna have a lot of issues. And a second thing that you might come across is when you're screwing these up, you might run into a situation when the door just won't close for every reason. I'm not able to demonstrate because all these are working, but if you do run into that situation, all you need to do is take a small tool, like some tweezers, and you want to push the door upwards towards the top of the screw. And as you're doing that, you go ahead and screw the top here, and that will reestablish the connection between the screw and the door, and it should be fine from there on. Okay, let's get started. The first one we're gonna work with is this orange wire. This is the retraction barrel switch over here. So if you're grabbing the one that comes from this side, that's the right one. And we're gonna pop these two in the first two here. Order doesn't matter. And then screw it in to clamp down on it. Always double check the wires to make sure that they are clamping down on the exposed part. Give them a bit of a gentle tug to make sure that it's secure. Next up is the slow blow LED. That is the red one that comes from the back corner here. Don't mix it up with the other red and black wires. So starting with the red one, that's gonna go next. Followed by the black one. Okay, next up, we're gonna grab this brown wire. This is the lower toggle switch. The order does not matter for these ones. Then the double red one, this is the upper toggle switch. Order does not matter. Then the red and yellow one over here, this is the clippered LED. We are going to go with the red one first, followed by the yellow one. Okay, then grab the other black and red wire here. This is the rumble motor. Make sure it's the one that's attached. To make sure you got the right one, just give it a yank. You see it moving over here, and you got the right one. And we're gonna start with the red one first, and then the black. Okay, and next, we're gonna skip the next 6 terminals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna close this one to mark it, just so I know I'm not gonna make any mistakes. So these 6 belong to the stock bar graph, but we're not using that anymore because we got the new one. So we're gonna skip these, and we're gonna start with, if you look very closely, it should say D12. That's the first one that we're gonna start with next. So we're gonna take the green wire from the vent light, and if you look closely, just make sure it's the very top one that we're gonna be using. That will go into D12. And then next one is gonna be the black one. So that's number 2 from the top on the vent light. Make sure you got that right one. This one's actually gonna piggyback off the rotary encoder switch over here. So we're gonna jump all the way to the end, and we're just gonna tighten it for now. We're gonna have to revisit this later on. Then finally, the red one, which is the 3rd one from the top. This is going to go into VL positive, which is this one here. Okay, so I'm gonna show you up close. So the vent light's gonna be a little bit weird because we're using a custom one, not the stock Hasbro one. So skip 6 here, green, skip 1, red, skip 2, black. And again, just in case the wiring color for reasons different, the top 3, green, black, red. D12, ground, and VL positive. All right, the last one is the rotary encoder. So starting with the orange one, that goes here into D7. Then the next one here, the red one, into D6. Okay, and finally the brown one is gonna share the spot with the black one that came from the vent light. So you're gonna need to unscrew that. And then you're gonna shove both of them in. give them both a tug, make sure that they're secure. And while you're at it, it's a good time now to give all of them a bit of a yank to ensure they're all nicely in there. Double check it again, make sure that it's clamping down on the exposed wire only. And double check again with the diagram to make sure that all these connections are correct. Okay, now grab your wire cover, starting with this end first. I'm gonna slot that in underneath the latch. And it should go right up against the Bargraph mount. Then make sure the rest of the cables that are coming in from here are gonna be in between these two legs. And then put the other end in. And yep, that looks good. And then we're gonna screw it in. One screw is probably enough. If you have another one left over, it doesn't hurt to put both of them in, but one should do the job. Okay, double check everything. Make sure that all the wires from here are coming in underneath there. Next up, grab this. This is called the wand cage. And we're gonna slide the board up and over that little seat there. And then it should be sitting on there like this. And then just sit that into the wand. It should have a little bit of snug fit, like so. Okay, so now we are ready to put the connectors on. So let's start with this one here first. This goes into the 4-pin connector right there on the right. Oh, and make sure that the wire is in between these two posts. So this blue and yellow one comes across and connects to the TX RX connector all the way on this side. Okay, and then for the red and black, that is the power coming from the pack, and that just goes, whoops, the cage came off, that's okay. That just goes into the middle plug here. Like so. It's okay if it pops off, it's gonna happen a lot. You're gonna have to make a lot of adjustments, so don't worry about it for now. Okay, next, let's do the bar graph. So if you have the bar graph installed this way, with the wires on the right side, you're gonna take the bottom one, and that is the power. So we're gonna trace the bottom one here, and give this a tug to see which one it is. So it looks like it's this one. This will be my power one. And then actually we're gonna lift up the wand cage. We're gonna have it go around under this. We're gonna have it come in around and up this way. And this is gonna slot right in there between the terminal blocks. Okay, and then the next one, same thing. We'll go through, under, up. And that is going to go into the connector here, SCL, SDA. And then rounding out the wires that come from this side of things, we're going to put the top hat light. So once again, have it go around and up this way. You're going to have a lot of wires coming up this way. And that is going to go into hat 1, which is right over here, the second one here. So it looks like that. Okay, and then finishing off these two wires coming from here. These also, yes, you guessed it, up and over. So the blue one is gonna go across all the way to the corner. And then the black and red one is going to go into hat number 2, which is right next to hat number 1. All right, so now I'm gonna tidy this up a little bit, the spaghetti mess of wires. We're gonna push the wand cage back down. So make sure there's nothing under the feet. I'm sure some of you out there are much neater and probably have a nice cleaner way of doing this, but I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna shove everything aside. Okay, and then these wires here, you gotta make sure it's clear of the barrel, so we're gonna shove them underneath. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. The wand is really fun to deal with. All right, so then the last one here is the barrel. This one is gonna go over the wand cage. We're not tucking this away. We want this to be free. Like that. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the GPStar audio board. Make sure that the switch is set to boot. And the terminal blocks, just like before, we gotta open them up. Grab your SD card that's loaded with the sound effect files. Pop that in. Grab this connector and connect the big end. Okay, and then grab your speakers. And then this is gonna go back under the barrel cover and up. And you can slide it back in. And then now we gotta take these wires and screw it into this terminal block here. It is gonna be a little bit difficult because the wires are so short. Check it's secure. Next, you're gonna lift your wand cage up a bit, and the cables are gonna slide into this little groove here, like that. And then this is gonna go up and over, and this end goes into this post here. This auxiliary port is gonna sit in the little square here, and the other end snaps into that little spot right there. So it'll look like this. Okay, and then just finally connect this cable to this gray connector here. Oh, whoops, sorry. Make sure that this barrel cable is actually under the audio board. So look like that. Okay, so we're not gonna close this up yet. There is one more thing I want to show you that will make your life a lot easier when it comes to updating the software and the SD card. But before we do that, we're gonna test this out to make sure everything works. So I'm just gonna slot the back plate back on. Okay, and I'm just gonna hold it together, and let's hop over to our proton pack and just check if it works. All right, so I'm gonna grab my hose, I'm gonna plug her in. I'm gonna power on the pack. And turn it on. So far, so good. All the lights appear to be working. Gonna turn down the pack a little bit. Test out the Hatlight. Hatlight works. If you're wondering why the barrel isn't fully lighting up, it's because we have to change the settings. So I'm gonna power down the wand. And I'm not gonna go through all of the settings, but I'm just gonna quickly go through, show you how to change the barrel LED count, just to make sure everything works. So all the toggle switches down, the wand off, hold intensify, and flip this right top switch 5 times really fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're in the menu, and then we're gonna screw it on to level 4. And then press intensify until it says 50.
2 barrel LEDs, 5 barrel LED, 48 barrel LEDs, 50 barrel LEDs.
Okay, and then we're gonna go back to level 5 and hit the barrel wing button to save.
Saving settings.
And now, when we test it out again, oops. There you go. Okay, so we can confirm the wand is fully operational and good to go. All right, back to the workstation. Now, the reason why I didn't want to close this up yet is because I want to show you, I want to talk about how to update your wand, how you would normally do it, and then what is the better way. So whenever there's a new software update, either to just the board or both the board and the SD card sound effects, you would have to open up your wand completely, plug in the programming cable into the 6 pins over here, like so, and then plug in the other end to your computer, flash it, blah, blah, blah. And for the SD card, you just have to pop it out, plug into your computer, update the sound effects, and plug it back in, and then close up your wand. And then you're gonna have to do that each and every time, which is kind of a bummer, right? So instead of doing that, there is a mod out there that is not created by GPStar. It's created by a gentleman in our community called Tomohiro, aka RadisLAB. If you head over to his Etsy page, you're going to be able to download his digital files for an adapter that replaces this part here, and it allows you to have easy access to your wand to update it without having to open up your wand. Okay, so here is everything that is needed for the kit. These 3 components here, you can find them pretty cheap on AliExpress. He has the links in the instruction manual, so just refer to that. And for the digital files, these are 3D printed. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can do it online on the many 3D printing service websites. And all you have to do is select the type of 3D printer you want. I would suggest for at least the outer piece, you choose resin. So this is a black resin. It's nice and smooth, as opposed to FDM printing, which is the usual one that you're most commonly see. This one has layer lines, and it will require sanding, smoothing, and then repainting again. But if you just get this one, the black matches the wand pretty closely, so you don't have to do any of that. Okay, so once you got your kit ready to go, you can put these ones aside for now, and we're gonna focus on this. You're gonna take your wand, and we're gonna test to make sure that this connects. Reason being is this may or may not simply just pop in like normal, lock in, and pop out. For some reason, some of these either is disconnected, that's very sensitive and delicate in production, or it's this piece, I'm not sure. But you might have a situation where for a reason it just won't click in. All right, that's okay, because now I can demonstrate on how to get around fixing that. You're gonna need some sandpaper, and we're gonna sand down the front here just a little bit. You don't want to go too far in and damage these connectors. Just a little bit should be enough. Okay, let's test this out. Okay, and there you go. I sanded it down just a little bit. I pushed it really hard all the way, and now it seems to click in. Another option is while holding it in place, just drop a dab of hot glue on. Okay, now that we got that test out of the way, we're gonna have to remove this piece. There may or may not just be a tiny bit of glue right in the middle there holding it down, but all you have to do is just yank it out as hard as you can. Give it a bit of wiggle if you need to. All right, so now grab this board and your jumper cable. And in order to ensure that we have the proper connection between this board and the wand, we're gonna focus on this outer pin. This is the ground pin. And luckily I have a jumper cable that has black color here, because black generally means ground. And so I'm gonna plug that in like so. And then you're gonna need to bend this about 30 degrees. So I already bent it, as you see a little bit, but I'm just gonna bend it a little bit more. Not too much is needed. And then grab your wand. I'm gonna slide this up and under. And to properly line this up in the correct pins, make sure that your ground wire, so this black one here, is facing to the right. And we're gonna plug this in to the 6 pins there. Okay, so it'll look like this when it's all said and done. Again, black wire, ground pin on the right side. Okay, next, next grab this inner connector and you're gonna slide that in here. Take this latch piece, and that's gonna slide in there to hold it down. Take your SD card extender and slide it into the little slot in the front, all the way through. And then this just clicks in. If you want, you can add some glue to the back, hot glue maybe, to keep it more secure. Drop your SD card in, close the door, push down, and slide it downwards for it to lock. Like that. Up and over. And then this just slots in like so. So the reason why we had to bend those pins is because there's a post here in the way. Okay, and now just connect your SD card extender. Okay, and right now is a good time before you close up to head back over to your Proton pack and plug it in, and just make sure that this SD card is working. You want to make sure that connection is good. Okay, once you're satisfied, let's close this up. Reconnect the spring. So make sure all the wires are clear. Make sure that the wires here are tucked in and out of the way. And last thing to make sure is to clear these posts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these two especially, make sure the wires are not in the way when you're putting it back together. And once you confirm that all those posts are clear and the wires are clear, let's go ahead and pop this back on. Double check to make sure that it closes well without too much pressure. Yeah, this side looks good. I would say this back end feels the most tight, but that is normal. Okay, and let's drop the screws back in. So 3 of these normal ones, 2, 3, and then 1 long one that goes here. When you are tightening these, make sure that you do not over tighten. As soon as you start to feel that it's got a bit of friction, just go ahead and back off. You don't want to over tighten these because you will end up stripping the plastic if you do it too often, especially if you're going in and out of the wand many times. Yeah, you have the potential of stripping those screws, and I have done that myself. Okay, let's check it out. Looks good. Looks good. Test out the barrel. Looks like nothing's catching, so the barrel's good. And if you want to test out the programming to make sure that it still updates, you stick in a USB-C, plug into your computer, and just do a firmware update with the GPStar flasher. And okay, and the cap just goes on, and you just gotta twist it until it's closed tightly. You might want to put a bit more glue on here when you're putting your mirror tip back on so it doesn't pop off when the barrel extends. And the last thing you need to do, take the gun track and snip off the ends of this triangle, this cone. That back on, dropping your screws. Do not over tighten once again. Now grab some electrical tape, and we're gonna have to tape up these wires. All right, now to the final step. Grab this Bargraph cover, rip off the back side, okay, and line it up before you push down. Okay, and then just hold it down to make sure the glue sticks. And then when you're satisfied, you can peel off the front cover. Okay, and that is it. Congratulations, guys, for making it this far. It's not an easy kit to install, especially this wand part. And if you stuck through and made this far, you did a very good job. So congrats again. And so the only thing remaining is bust some ghosts.